A brand new US B-21 Raider bomber, designed to be nearly invisible to radar, was cruising at 34,000 feet off Crimea when something unthinkable happened. The Russian S-500, a missile designed to hit satellites at Mach 14, locked on and fired. The B-21, considered America's crown jewel of stealth, had never faced a real test like this. But could Russia's missile actually strike what many believe is untouchable? And what happened after the Pentagon received that emergency call saying, "Aircraft hit"? Stay with us, because the US response changed everything. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. A stealth jet built to slip past the most advanced radars in the world suddenly found itself tracked, locked, and struck. The B-21 Raider, America's newest bomber, had entered the Black Sea on a patrol that was meant to send a message without firing a shot. Its purpose was simple: show presence, remind Moscow that US assets can operate near contested airspace, and test the limits of its stealth cloak over one of the most heavily defended regions on Earth. What no one expected was that Russia's most advanced defense network would see it, draw a bead, and fire a missile designed to kill targets no aircraft was ever expected to survive. The B-21 was known for its composite body, reduced heat signature, and coatings intended to scatter radar waves rather than return them. Engineers described it as a disappearing plane, the kind of aircraft built to confuse even the most modern sensors. On this mission, it carried no heavy payload intended for direct attack. Its presence alone symbolized a warning. America was willing to risk its newest and most expensive bomber in contested skies. For defense analysts watching from Washington, its test was more than military. It was political theater meant to underscore dominance. But the Russian network it faced was nothing like a rehearsal range in Nevada. Across the Crimean coast, buried beneath reinforced shelters, stood the S-500 system. This wasn't built to merely hit invading jets. It was advertised as fast enough to intercept hypersonic glide weapons and powerful enough to shoot into low Earth orbit. Its reach was measured in hundreds of miles, operated through radar arrays linked to satellites, ground radars, and mobile detection units. Operators claimed it could track hundreds of targets simultaneously. That reputation alone had left many to wonder whether even the newest stealth aircraft could truly hide. The tension broke when one of the S-500's radar operators received a return signal faint but steady. Software confirmed the track, auto-tagging it as hostile. Within minutes, a 77 N-6 missile shot from its tube with a blinding plume, climbing at several thousand feet per second. Operators watched its guidance system adjust mid-flight, locking to the shadow that shouldn't have appeared on their screens at all. Thousands of miles away, the Pentagon's secure line went hot. The call came in. An American bomber had been hit. Damage reports confirmed the missile had detonated near the aircraft's wing, shredding part of its skin and peeling away sections of its stealth coating. The bomber remained airborne, its crew executing emergency protocols. But the fact was unmistakable. The B-21, a platform designed never to be touched, had taken a direct hit. Shock spread fast across Washington. What made it worse was the ambiguity. Was this the result of a jittery radar officer acting on false alarms? Or was it an intentional strike meant to signal Moscow's willingness to escalate despite knowing the stakes? Inside the White House Situation Room, the mood was urgent but calculated. Advisors crowded around the table, weighing the balance between measured retaliation and outright escalation. Some pointed to the credibility problem. Ignoring this strike would make the world doubt American deterrence. Others warned that an immediate harsh response risked spiraling toward the unthinkable. The arguments circled the same problem: how to show strength without triggering a war neither side claimed to want. The solution soon emerged. An air group was ordered to mobilize at sea. Within hours, the USS George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group was moving toward the contested waters. Its escort destroyers and cruisers formed up as fighters readied on its deck. The message was deliberate. America would not rely on scripted threats. It would put steel and sailors directly in theater. The escalation was visible, but it wasn't the kind that triggered nuclear alerts. What came next would be a calculated blow, aimed not at cities or civilians, but at the layered defenses that had dared to strike America's stealth crown jewel. As the Carrier Strike Group pushed through the Bosporus and into the Black Sea, The American plan was already in motion. The decision out of Washington was not to answer the Russian attack with immediate bombardment, but with a demonstration of layered power. Every piece of the task force had a role. Dozens of MQ-25 Stingray drones were prepped as the first wave, followed by flights of EA-18G Growlers carrying pods designed to scramble radar frequencies. Behind them, Super Hornets armed with standoff missiles waited for launch commands, while Arleigh Burke destroyers plotted cruise missile trajectories from hundreds of miles away. Even the damaged B-21 Raider was slated to re-enter the fight once skies were contested, but not fully sealed. The strategy was clear: pressure the Russian defense grid with saturation, exploit openings, and dismantle the system one layer at a time. The mission started before sunrise. The first wave of drones soared in tight formation, their engines humming against the open water. Operators on board the carrier expected most of them would not survive, and those fears came true almost instantly. Russian surveillance picked up the mass of inbound signatures, and within seconds, a flicker of streaking contrails filled the horizon. Long-range interceptors reached the outer group of drones, detonating them in mid-air. Mid-range systems activated immediately after, blasting several more Stingrays into burning fragments above the coast. In less than 10 minutes, half the UAV wave was gone. But that was part of the design: attrition by numbers. While dozens fell, others pressed forward, weaving at low altitude, darting for exposed positions. One Stingray reached into the clutter, long enough to slam into a Panzer site guarding Sevastopol. Surveillance tracked its final dive, as the drone disappeared into a wall of fire before a secondary blast confirmed the anti-air vehicle itself was destroyed. It marked the first small fracture in Russia's defensive wall, the kind of moment commanders were watching for. Sacrificing unmanned craft carried a cost in equipment, but even one hit against a mobile defense site expanded cracks for follow-on strikes. Meanwhile, the Growlers entered the picture. EA-18GS orbited just off the coast, their jamming pods lighting up Russian screens with false returns. Operators found themselves chasing shadows, dozens of phantom targets racing across their radars, mixing with actual aircraft they struggled to identify. Confusion spread as missile batteries fired at empty air, wasting interceptors on spectral illusions. The tactic bought breathing space for the strike groups moving behind the drones, but it didn't seal the fight from danger. One Super Hornet escorting the Growlers found itself bracketed by radar locks. Despite evasive maneuvers, a surface-to-air missile struck home, ripping the fighter apart and sending its pilot ejecting into open water. Search helicopters launched, but the message was undeniable. Even amid advanced jamming, human lives were still at risk. By late afternoon, more than half the integrated grid was silent. The S-500 launch points stood intact, but their supporting radars were splintered, their communication lines cut, and their picture of the skies incomplete. For Washington, the intent was met. Russian defenses had been crippled without touching civilian centers, demonstrating capability without full-scale destruction. The clash wound down as aircraft circled back to the carrier, and silence spread over Black Sea airspace. Yet the takeaway was not the burned-out sites or wrecked drones, but the reminder that measured strikes could punish and restrain at the same time. The clash ended without nuclear fire because Washington framed its answer as punishment, not conquest. Airstrikes targeted defenses, not cities, proving strength while keeping the line short of escalation. That choice mattered as much as the hardware. Showing that stealth and precision could cut into even the strongest networks marked one lesson. Showing that restraint prevented disaster marked the other. The message was clear: military power has limits, and control is the force that stops a crisis from becoming total war. In an age of bombers and missiles, the sharpest weapon may be knowing when to stop.